You keep judging your child's educator, yet you have no idea what they have to do to be where they are. Are you an early childhood educator or teacher and you feel like you are on your own? You're not, but it's time to change the world. You can either choose to invest in your child's education when they're a teenager, and it won't matter if you didn't care about the first 5 years. The entire system is broken. The education system, the financial system, the justice system. If you want the solution for youth justice, for the crime rates, it starts here. Welcome to the I Am Education podcast, where we explore transformative ideas for parents, educators, and anyone passionate about shaping the future of education and humanity. Join us as we dive into the latest insights, practical tools, and inspiring conversations that empower both children and adults to thrive. Let's unlock the potential of education together. I Am Education, for the love of learning. Hi, and welcome back to another episode. Today we're going to dive into a topic that's close to my heart and one that deserves much more attention than it gets. This is why people need to value early childhood educators more than you do. You see, if you're a parent, an educator, or just someone who's passionate about the future generation, this episode is for you. Let's talk about why early childhood education is one of the most important professions out there and why the people working in this field deserve so much more respect and recognition than they currently receive. You see, this role is critical. And the reason it's critical is because of how much they need to do for our future generation. You see, they're not just babysitters, caretakers, or nose wipers, as one Australian politician has referred to them before. They're the foundation builders of our society. There's many reasons as to why this is. Research has shown that the early years, especially from birth to 5, are the most critical in a child's development. During this period, a child's brain is developing at a rapid pace, creating the foundation for lifelong learning, behaviour, and emotional well-being. Early childhood educators are the ones shaping these critical first years, providing the environment and the experiences that help children thrive. Early childhood educators are responsible for teaching children not just basic academic skills, but also how to navigate their emotions, interact with others, and develop critical thinking skills. Yes, these are the life skills that form the backbone of a child's future success in school, work, and life. They are also tasked with creating safe, nurturing environments where children feel secure enough to explore, learn, and grow. The emotional safety provided by these educators is essential for a child's well-being and ability to engage in meaningful learning. Despite the critical role they play, early childhood educators are often undervalued and underpaid. Let's talk about why this happens and why it needs to change. You see, the misunderstanding that society has is what they actually do. The complexity of early childhood education, many people view it as simply babysitting, not realizing the depth of knowledge and skills required to support early learning and development. Childcare can be traced back to the early 1890s as day nurseries were created as recognition for the need for women, to go back to work. That's right. It was designed as a place for children to go so their parents could contribute to the economy. And in the 1960s, only 7% of women had access to childcare due to the cost being unreachable for low and middle income families. The introduction of the Childcare Act here in Australia, the first government funding, started in 1972. That is only 52 years ago at the time of this recording. And over recent decades, research has shown the importance of the development of the child in these early years. And we, in my opinion, are feeling the impacts of this right now in today's society. You see, 2 years ago, I sat down around a table with a group of amazing humans at a retirement village to discuss the emotion regret for my art show that was coming up. And these men and women were between the ages of 70 and 90. That's right, 90 years of age. And when asked about raising children and money, one of the biggest regrets they had was putting their children into childcare to earn money instead. The insights that they shared after this blew my mind. The reason for this is we had people who felt like they had to go to work, and that was the drive behind it. Let's get women into the workplace as well. And, that's great and it's been important. However, what it has meant is that we have sacrificed the raising of children, not just in this country, but across the globe. And you now see we have issues in youth justice. And I've been across the youth justice issues we have here in this country, especially here in Queensland. I spent part of my childhood in Alice Springs, one of Australia's highest youth crime locations. And the 17-year-old who killed a couple and their unborn child a few years ago here in the Redlands was arrested on my driveway. He was held down by our neighbour and my husband. You can get as fired up as you want about this, whatever your point of view is. But you want to know what he said? I was just doing what my father told me to do. He just wanted approval from his dad. His dad was in fucking jail already. But that is how much parents mean to children. And the reason I share these two stories is because many people want to see things as separate silos. Our education system, our health system, our justice system, our financial system. The problem is it's all fucking connected. We have created a society where for many families, both parents have to work just to put food on the table. We have children going to giant early learning centres as early as 6 weeks old, where they are in rooms with other infants at a 1-to-4 ratio of educators. It's actually insane. And if you haven't seen this, go and see it for yourself. Educators and teachers have been screaming out about this for decades, and nobody seems to be hearing them. But then what we do is we expect the educators and teachers to do the jobs that parents should be doing, all within a 6 to 10 hour window every day, plus capture and document all of that so they meet some type of rating that the government issues to make sure boxes are being ticked. It's actually wild. And then when a child isn't ticking certain boxes in their own development, many people are pointing fingers at the educators and teachers. Are you fucking serious? Early childhood educators are trained professionals. They literally have to study to be in this sector. They are trained to understand child development, learning theories, and how to create environments that foster growth. Yet, their work is often seen as less important than other educational levels, even though I believe all educators and teachers at any age are underappreciated. The people responsible for the first 5 years of life, now proven to be the most critical, are still referred to as babysitters and nose wipers in public fucking forums. And I want to share another story, one from a centre I used to have in a low socioeconomic area. We had this toddler who came in 5 days a week. He would be one of the first to arrive and the last to be picked up, every single day. At the time, that was 12 hours in our care. For a number of weeks, we noticed he was coming in the morning in the same nappy he went home in, completely soaked through, 5 times the size. When he would get dropped off, Mum would have the eldest child who was about to go to school, and he was drinking a Slurpee, which was his breakfast. Can you just sit with that image for a moment? And allow whatever judgments come through and let yourself feel the feelings. You see, this would happen on and off over the course of a few months. We mapped the cycles to the Centrelink payment fortnights and also when the father would return from working away. And it was on his return that the neglect would be at its worst. And it was on the payment cycle of Centrelink that nappies would be changed and fresh when they arrived. Tell me, what would you do in this situation? How have you judged this family? How have you judged me for sharing this story right now? Because you see, this is the problem we have in society. Who carries the blame here? Who is responsible for what is playing out in this situation? And this is just one of thousands I have from the past decade. Add in the stories from my team of educators and teachers, and it will give you insight as to what is really happening out there in society. It's not your responsibility, is it though? How could it be? You want my opinion? Well, I'll give it to you anyway, since it's my podcast. You are part of the problem. Yes, you listening. You are also part of the solution. We all are. Every single human being on this planet. You may think you are just one person, but you impact others around you whether you want to or not. Your energy affects others simply by existing. And so what if you decided to be part of the solution actively? What if you took your head out of the sand and you actually started to look at the world you live in? And so I want to talk about the occupation of an early childhood educator or teacher. You see, early childhood educators are among the most underpaid professionals, despite the fact that they have one of the most important jobs. We can say underpaid because if you have a look at the responsibilities society and governments put onto them, plus the physical and emotional impacts the role has on the individual's body and mind, it's underpaid. And those relatively low wages, those long hours and limited resources are common in this field, especially since the privatisation of the sector. And for-profit services started listing themselves on the stock market. The fucking stock market. Literally commoditizing humans, educators, and children. This is not a for-profit or non-for-profit debate, because there are non-for-profit companies out there where their management and board are all driving around in BMWs and Mercedes cars, whilst all the money is apparently being reinvested back into the centres. And my own centres are for profit. The biggest difference is I choose not to take every single dollar of profit out. Yes, you business humans might say that that's stupid. And if you're from the unions, you might say I shouldn't be taking any. And this is what I have to say about this. There is not enough government funding going into early childhood education. That private investment was needed. It was required to meet the needs of children in our country. And I mean the needs of not only their academic education, but their development socially and emotionally. Parents being home with their children is not always the best answer. I know, as many parents are not mentally well enough to educate and care for their children. And that is for a whole range of other reasons. You see, the parents now, we are the most underparented generation of parents that exists. Most of us were in early childhood in care ourselves because our parents were working. And so we are the first full generation where our kids are in care because we're working too. And we wonder why the pendulum has swung so far in the mental health of this country, in our education system and its collapse. You see, even through all of this, educators continue to show up day after day because of their passion for nurturing young minds, because of their belief and knowing of how important the work they are doing is, even if they are literally hearing the opposite from others around them. And though the saying of, "I'm not doing it for the money," should not have to be something that they say to justify the way in which society treats them. It is. And I understand this is a complex situation. And it's also a really freaking easy one if you want it to be real. You see, there's a general lack of awareness about the long-term impact of early childhood education. Many people don't realize that children who receive high-quality early education are far more likely to succeed academically, socially, and emotionally later in life. And this lack of understanding contributes to the undervaluing of the profession. And it's also why many parents will use public schools for primary school and then invest their money into the high school years for their children. But the research literally shows that investment in the early years has more impact on the child than waiting until they hit adolescence. It's fundamentally flawed thinking, yet it is what we have created as a society together. Yes, you. The person who, whatever judgment you made around the lady who would drop her child off in the same nappy. The judgments you make when you see a new mum breastfeeding out in public, or you see a new mum bottle feeding her child out there. Every single one of the judgments you are making of the people around you is affecting children from the day that they are born. And why do we need to change this narrative? It's time. We have to shift the way we view early childhood educators. We need to start valuing them more because they are shaping our future. Early childhood educators are literally in charge of shaping the future of our society. The children they teach today will grow up to become the leaders, innovators, and caretakers of tomorrow. And when we invest in early education and the people who provide it, we are investing in the future. It's time to recognize early childhood education as a legitimate, highly skilled profession. These educators deserve the same respect, pay, and working conditions as other educators. After all, they're laying the groundwork for all future learning. And because of what we have created, the solution has to be built around what we have built or The whole thing has to be burnt to the ground and we start again. And when early childhood educators are valued and supported, the benefits will ripple out into society. Children will receive better care, parents will have more trust in the educational system, and the long-term social and economic outcomes improve. Spending proactive dollars now saves the reactive dollars we have to spend fixing things down the track. It's an actual win for everyone. The thing is, though, for a lot of politicians, it doesn't win them the votes. But this is about humanity as a whole. This isn't about what government gets in. Because if a government was truly going to change early childhood education, or anything for that matter, it wouldn't be about whether they're going to be in long enough, whether their job is secure. It would be about the greater good, not themselves. Just look at the youth justice issues we have. The school refusal, the growth in homeschooling. It's all linked. And it starts in the first 5 years. This isn't just my opinion. This is actually the research. This is actually what's happening. And in the show notes below, you can see and click on those links if you want to see where the research is. So how can we start giving early childhood educators the value they deserve? I want to give you some practical steps that you can take. You can talk about the importance of early childhood education with your community. You can share research, stories, and facts about how vital these early years are for your child's development. Because the more people understand the impact of early education, the more they'll value the educators who provide it. We have been doing what we can here at I Am Education and will continue to do so. I mean, you could check out the things that we do, our website, and what else, our resources, our ideas, our stories, and the ways in which you can support children and educators today. The thing is, though, is that many of you, are catching up with your friends and all you're doing is talking about how expensive early childhood is, how expensive childcare is, how you can't seem to get your child in for the days that you need, how you wish that you could just put your child in and have a day off. All of that is legitimate and of value to you. The thing is, though, is that you're making it all about you, not about your child, and not about the educators who do the work with your child. So what would happen if you actually started seeing a different perspective? And if you started to see that perspective, you might actually start to see and support policies that increase funding for early childhood education. You can advocate for higher wages, better benefits, and improved working conditions for these educators. When we invest in early childhood educators, we invest in the future of our children. Now, here in Australia at the moment, there is the bill of 15% pay increase for educators. Now, I want to put a disclaimer here because you cannot take the government on face value. And I advocated for this in COVID when free childcare was introduced. Many people thought that that was a great thing, that that was going to serve and save childcare centres, and that was going to mean that parents and critical staff could still go to work. What many people thought was they were getting they weren't having to pay anymore, but that the government was going to pay their fees. And as an owner, and I advocated this for at the time in the media, we weren't. We went from having the services that we had to free childcare being introduced and losing up to 60 to 70% of our revenue to be able to pay staff. Now, holding the perspective of no government in the world knew what to do with COVID, and that the solution had its positives, as everything does, it also has its negatives. But the thing is, it was the spin that was put in the media about how it was a great thing. And that parents thought they were paying, but they weren't. And so we actually had to meet with our staff and tell them that their hours had to be cut and that they may not get paid. There's a lot of family daycare educators nationally who couldn't put money on the table and who couldn't qualify for the JobKeeper at the time. And if you know anything about this sector, many staff are casual. Many staff go from centre to centre. and haven't been with their employer for 12 months, so actually weren't able to get JobKeeper, which was the solution for the revenue that we'd lost. Now, I know that other businesses and other industries went under, and I know the impact is vast and wide across the globe. But the reason I'm wanting to tell you this, or put this disclaimer in here, is because this 15% increase that they're talking about for educators, it comes with disclaimers, it comes with terms and conditions for the providers. And overall, if you're a provider who signs into it, and we don't have enough data yet to sign up to know whether it's a good thing or not. Currently, I'm being advised not to sign up for it. The thing is that we already pay our staff above award wages because we choose to, because we've had the value, and I don't take every single dollar of profit. So for those centres out there who only pay what they have to pay, great. They should be paying more because educators deserve more. But the thing is if I sign that piece of paper, what it means is that all the other elements that make early childhood valuable outside of the educators becomes non-existent. The ability to put resources into the service, the ability to provide the extracurricular or the inclusion support for the many learning difficulties and support, the extra support to be able to do true inclusion, we start to risk all of those services, all of those products, because of the limitations that the government is putting into this. And so I may or may not sign. I don't know. I don't have enough information, and I will take the advice that I'm given by professionals. But I just want you to know, whether you're a parent, educator, business owner, whatever it is, that just because it sounds good doesn't mean that it is. And so judge all you want, but I just want you to know, ask the questions. What is the motive? What is the intention in any of this? Even in what I'm saying, what is my intention? Question everything. And as parents or community members, show your appreciation. It can go a long way. Thank the educators who work with children, your children. Acknowledge their efforts and recognize the value they bring to your child's life. A simple thank you or thoughtful gesture can remind these educators that their work matters and that they're not on their own. A really great way is to see your educators for who they are. Work out their love languages and show appreciation in ways that is meaningful to them. This makes the world of difference. And the thing is that these educators are making a difference in the world. And so back them. Help educators and teachers realize they are not on their own and that they truly do matter, because they do. And there are so many long-term benefits. When we start valuing early childhood educators, the benefits are profound, not just for educators, but for society as a whole. You see, we start to have better outcomes. When educators are supported and well compensated, they're able to give their best to the children that they teach. And this leads to higher quality education and better developmental outcomes for children, both in the short and the long term. Valuing early childhood education leads to stronger communities. Children who receive quality early education are more likely to succeed academically, socially, and emotionally, contributing to a healthier, more resilient community. And we need that more than ever. And by investing in early childhood education, we can help level the playing field for all children, regardless of their background, regardless of the mental health of their parents, of the families. High quality early education can help close the achievement gap and give every child the chance to thrive. Because every child is born 100% worthy and they fucking deserve it. And it's time for a shift. And early childhood educators are some of the most important people in our society, yet they're often the most undervalued. As in many professions where women, people, are responsible for nurturing and caring other humans, nursing and aged care. You see, we need to start recognizing the critical role that not just early childhood educators, but women and what they play in shaping our future, and that begins with valuing their work and advocating for better pay and conditions and raising awareness about the impact they have on our children's lives. Let's make a commitment to value them. Because when we do, we're investing in a brighter future for all of us. You are going to be old if you're lucky enough one day. And who and what type of human being do you want at your bedside? If you're not a parent yet, when you become a parent, who do you want looking after your children? Because the decisions you make today are the things that are going to impact you when you have your child or in 50 years' time when you're 90. We don't have to be at a table and have those regrets. You can choose now. And I choose to invest in the first breath so that my last can be as beautiful as it can be. And so that humanity from first breath to last is valued. Because those educators and those children deserve it, as do those aged carers and those people who built the world that we now live in. And so, I apologize for all the swearing today and the passion that may have come in this episode. And also, I'm not really sorry. Because this is the thing. If it's what gets your attention, if it's what wakes you up, then it's worth the judgment you may make of me for that. And so, thank you for tuning in today. And if this episode resonated with you, or if you want to learn more about how to support early childhood education, feel free to reach out or join Jason and I at one of our upcoming workshops where we dive deeper into these important conversations for educators, for parents, for humanity. And until next time, remember that educators are the foundation of our future. Let's give them the recognition and respect that they deserve. You can see the references below for all in which the research I did for this episode. You keep judging your child's educator, yet you have no idea what they have to do to be where they are. Are you an early childhood educator or teacher and you feel like you are on your own? You're not, but it's time to change the world. You think you're paying too much for your child's care? It's about time you got a reality check. You can either choose to invest in your child's education when they're a teenager, and it won't matter if you didn't care about the first 5 years. The entire system is broken. The education system, the financial system, the justice system. If you want the solution for youth justice, for the crime rates, it starts here. You wonder why our youth are running riot? It's because of you. Yes, it's your responsibility. And this is why.